At the start of this season, I said that Barcelona, they were not my favorite to win the Liga, but I did feel like there was definitely if this happens right, if this goes right, if that goes right, then they could be the Liga champions. And under Hansi Flick in his first season in charge, enough has gone right that Barcelona are the Liga champions for the 28th time in their history. As you can see behind me, if you're watching on YouTube, or you can even hear it in my voice, I am on vacation and I'm still sick as a dog. I'm not doing too well right now physically. I am not at home. The microphone is different, so everything is out of whack. But Barcelona are champions. They've done it when the going got tough in their history, and it's time that I do it too for today's match review. There are no 5 headlines today. It is just the good, the bad, and the less, because actually, having watched those 90 minutes, I didn't have 5 headlines to get me over the edge, and I certainly don't feel well enough to get you 5 headlines. So welcome to episode 690 of the Barcelona podcast, brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network. It also is that before this, I had the watch along, so I do appreciate everybody that joined me for that one, for the watch along against Espanyol. And as a programming note, I will not have the watch along for Villarreal next weekend, and I will also not have the one in 2 weeks against Athletic Club. Those matches, yeah, they do matter to me, and it will be exciting players. So I'm probably going to do a 5 headlines afterwards or the day after, but I will not have those watch-alongs. But I will be doing the Barca Femení Champions League final at that noon East Coast time on the Saturday, the 24th. So I will do that Femení Champions League final watch-along. That will likely be the final match watch-along of the season, and we're going to have some other stuff going on Big Up in the meantime. And in the interim, there will also be plenty going on. Again, those 5 headlines will be expected on the YouTube channel and the podcast apps. I want to thank everybody who helps me out on Patreon, as well as all the different ways on social media you engage with me. So, again, without further ado, I'm not getting into 5 headlines, but we're doing the good, the bad, and the less for the Liga winning matchup with Espanyol, a 2-0 win. Let's start with the good. It is obviously that Barcelona are the Liga champions. That is what we can get out of this. I already said it's the 28th time in their history they've done it. A reminder that in close to 100 years, it's tough to win the Liga. It takes an entire season of consistency. You need depth. You need a little bit of luck. And you also need, for my sake, a little bit of apology, because I think the feedback that I received, so I appreciate everybody who left me comments on YouTube or even emailed me. They didn't think, that being the general audience, that I was hard enough on the refereeing in El Clasico. And you know what? You're absolutely right. It was a handball on Tchouaméni. The call against Fermin Lopez late probably should have gone Barca's way. If the Tchouaméni handball had actually not been counted, whatever it is, you have to be consistent. They weren't. And then the foul on Lamine Yamal in the build to the second goal. So yeah, we can relitigate El Clasico if you want. I guess I didn't, because Barcelona at that point, I felt like they had still won the match despite the refereeing. And not to say it's a problem for next year, but I think transfers, refereeing, those are going to be some of the big talking points in this summer upcoming, because Barcelona will not be participating in the Club World Cup, of course, because of what they did last season. So in terms of the news and everything like that, yeah, I guess I owe everybody an apology. I probably could have been more fired up than I was. I think if Barcelona had lost that match in El Clasico, it would have been a different story. But I was already kind of looking ahead to today and the fact that Barcelona could win the Liga, because at the end of the day, I know you care as much as I do that the trophies are the ones that matter. And the Champions League, that one stinks, the semifinals and all that stuff. But Barcelona, as we've talked about, they were just 2 wins away, and really just 1 win and 3 minutes away from winning 4 trophies this year. For Barcelona, it's also the first time in their history when they have won the Spanish triple, which is the Liga, Copa del Rey, and the Spanish Super Cup. The last team to have done this in Spain was Real Madrid, who won it in 1988-89. I would also say a big good thing is Barcelona in totality, their second half of the season, because who would have expected, even at the midway point, I went all the way back to the start of the season, but even at the midway point, when Barcelona are 5 points off Real Madrid, you felt like it all had to come down to Copa del Rey or the Champions League. But no, Barcelona found a way to win the Liga. And it says a lot about Real Madrid and their second half form, because usually they're the team that turns it around. But Barcelona certainly flipped the script this time around, and a lot of that credit goes to Hansi Flick, who is probably headline 1, if anything, when it comes to the good that we're talking about. But instead, I want to talk about a player in Lamine Yamal. The good, of course, was Lamine Yamal and the Golazo that does win Barcelona La Liga. He's been and will be, I guess, the player of the season. I'll talk about my player awards, but for a player that after today felt like the media landscape had finally shifted, regardless of PSG and Dembele, how that all shakes out, or anybody for Inter, it feels like the tides are going towards the world feeling like a 17-year-old is the Ballon d'Or winner. And I know we don't care about individual awards, especially those that just tell a story or are a lot more about propaganda and all those different things and not actually about who is best or whatever. But yes, Lamine Yamal is being seen and talked about like one of the best players in the world. And this goal is certainly a terrific moment to keep replaying. The fact that a goal from Lamine Yamal winds up winning Barcelona La Liga, and how that happens is it's the 53rd minute. The kid just does his thing. Yamal goes over the top to Olmo. Olmo gives it back, and he makes the Messi. People are also saying Arjen Robben. I don't like to use that example because, yes, it may look more similar, and Messi oftentimes would shoot low. It looks more similar to Robben, but yeah, I may see him in a Real Madrid jersey, so I try to forget about it. But as a younger generation forgets Robben, this is going to become Lamine Yamal's trademark move, or at least I hope it does, on a ton of goals. The kid barely scores regular goals. He only scores Golazos, so awesome for Lamine Yamal, who was certainly in Espanyol today getting the Messi treatment. They had 3 on him consistently. Not 2, but they had 3 on him. And while it wasn't Pedri's best, it wasn't almost bust, Lewandowski, Rafinha, they all struggled in the first half, as did Lamine Yamal. The kid really turned on in the second half and was the huge reason why I think Barcelona were able to break through here. Second good is Fermin Lopez. This is just for the winner. I also thought he worked pretty hard when he came on the field late. Playing as a false 9 is how he gets the goal in the 96th minute, putting it away, capping off the victory, sealing La Liga. As I said, he was working hard to keep winning the ball since the moment he came on the field, and he does really good work with Lamine Yamal to move the ball from left to right. And while Lamine Yamal earlier had gone to the corner flag, this time he decides, well, actually, let's not. And that gave Fermin Lopez enough of an opportunity to hit this ball one time as he's running onto it. That's his 5th goal in the Liga on the season, which I guess you'd take that. You feel like he could have done a little more goal scoring, and you'd want to see that from him next season. But Fermin Lopez, I would be surprised if he's not in a Barcelona uniform next season. Another good is Eric Garcia. For the other 10 players on the field in the first half, Eric Garcia, I thought, was the best of the bunch for Barcelona, at least the most impactful to the game. He was getting way forward, where, again, if you talked 2 years ago, I'm saying Eric Garcia is way up in that right quarter flag. What's going wrong? What's happening? But no, the overlapping runs with Lamine Yamal, underlapping at times to help with buildup. Eric Garcia was really good in that first half. In the second half, he turned it on defending-wise. Again, Eric Garcia 2 years ago, in a high line, I'd say, what's happening? What's going on? But Eric Garcia defending well in the 62nd minute, and other times as well. Defending well, getting forward as well. And Eric Garcia, yeah, awesome stuff for the Catalan and the Catalan derby. Another good is Cubarsi. I know it feels like the names are familiar throughout the season, but Cubarsi changed the game. In the 51st minute, he came on for Araujo, who unfortunately went out with a knee injury. But his passing in the vertical space changed the game. I mentioned that Espanyol were doing well to defend narrow, trying to force Barcelona out wide. But if the passing is crisp enough and good enough, it can bypass the midfield line and the forward line with just one pass. Cubarsi, actually, I don't need a fake coughing today, but as they bypassed that midfield line, Cubarsi did that by coming on the field. And Espanyol, they did a pretty good job cutting off passing lanes and pressuring Araujo and Christensen in the first half. But things changed when Cubarsi came on the field, because both Cubarsi, with the added fact that they were dealing with less than 25% possession for themselves, and Barcelona just kind of passing them into oblivion there in the second half, even, that Cubarsi being the one to come on when you're already tired is not the center back you want to see. And Cubarsi did aid in opening Espanyol up between the lines. Staying on the back line, Barcelona also improved when Balde came on for Gerard Martin, which is no surprise, but even while not fit, Balde's ability to both dribble his way and then release and then wind up in a central place. Same thing with his ability to move inside after a pass, just because of that speed, and also his recovery speed. It's just different. He's better than Gerard Martin. And it's a reminder that Barcelona this offseason, as much as Gerard Martin's been good enough, that's going to be the difficult task that I think that Deco has on his hands. It's not bringing in another left back. It's, can you bring in a backup left back who doesn't want to be the starter, because Balde is a starter. So can you bring in a backup left back who is better than Gerard Martin? I know you feel like you can name a million other left backs. I know a lot of people are going to keep saying Grimaldo at me. You can say Grimaldo till you're blue in the face, but you're not looking for a starter to take over for Balde or to even split time with him. Balde is the starter. So can you find a backup better than Gerard Martin? So that's your homework. And I don't know, you don't have to do that. I'll worry about that for my transfer video, so you don't worry about that. For now, let's again live our final good thing, be about Hansi Flick and just how he changed FC Barcelona. And now it's time for the bad. The bad, because Barcelona won 2-0 and they won the Liga, I feel like I'm in a good mood. But I do have to say the first half, I did have to sit through that. And that's actually why we're not doing 5 headlines. Barcelona had 3 big chances, a lower XG than Espanyol. They fell into Espanyol's trap, which is what you don't want to happen. Espanyol were defending narrow and sitting in to attack on the counter through Roberto Fernandez and Javi Puado, and it worked on a number of occasions. And it forced throughout the game Tech to make a number of saves. So I guess Szczesny's performance was a good, but the fact that he had to make all those saves, that's kind of the bad here. 74th minute, he had his most important save of the bunch. The ball was headed through a crowd off a corner. For Espanyol, Roberto Fernandez was onside for the second attempt that Tech had to get right and knew he was going to get hit too. He got fouled, so they got out of that one, that being Barcelona. But it is a reminder too. I know I'm now trying to sprinkle in good stuff into the bad. The fact that Szczesny's season started on the beach and it ends with the Liga trophy. So it is a reminder that you're never too old to make an impact. Maybe that's the lesson here. I don't know what it is. Or stay ready. Maybe that's the other lesson here. But Szczesny, yeah, the fact that he was on a beach and then winds up being the man that Barcelona need, he also brings up questions. Apparently Barcelona want to renew him. They want to thank him for what he's done. But in the cutthroat world of football, you'd love to look across the aisle at Juan Garcia for Espanyol and say, hey, do you want to come over here to this side of that city line, I guess you want to call it, and join Barcelona? I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's on his way to Newcastle. But Barcelona also have another question about goalkeeping. Can you get somebody better for a reasonable price over Szczesny or what he could do next season, or Ter Stegen if he's able to be healthy again? Can you do better than them? That is the task in the transfer window. Also bad today, I think Rafinha hasn't looked right since his injuries. Yes, he still had goals in both the Champions League and the Liga. So even not fully fit, which I don't think he is, he's still making an impact. Not really today. Lewandowski, same thing. There were moments in the build-up when he was fine. Then there were moments when his first touch let him down. Also a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of players collapsing on him. So Ferran Torres, we hope that your appendix, I guess that would be the bad. Ferran Torres' appendix, well, at least it was, and then the doctors took it out. So he will not be playing the rest of the season. And if Lewandowski wants to win the Pichichi, he's going to have to score some goals against Villarreal and Athletic Club, so we'll see about that. And then I also thought Olmo kind of struggled in this one too. All three of them, I do feel like, are limping their way to the finish line, but because they've got the trophies in their trophy case. But I don't think there's much to complain about with those three in particular. For Olmo, I think there's the most talking points. I don't know. Maybe it's Lewandowski. We're again talking about the transfer stuff. So I'm already got too many ideas, and maybe that's actually a bad thing. That I'm already thinking too much about off-season content when we still have matches to enjoy here in the Liga winning campaign. And then finally, the rest, or the other stuff that we haven't talked about yet. Well, this is actually a category where we have a lot to talk about in the commotion outside the stadium, which had the potential, as we were seeing some of the breaking news, to overshadow the match completely. There was a commotion in the stands that halted the game, but it was really just the fans trying to get Juan Garcia's attention that the match might need to be stopped because of what was going on outside the stadium. A car drove into a crowd outside the stadium, and fortunately, while some were taken to the hospital with an ambulance, the report is that there are no severe injuries. They were just taken to the hospital as precaution. So that is all good news, but yeah, certainly pretty worrying. And then back on the field, the 77th minute, a reminder that it is a Catalan derby. Espanyol showed up, and Cabrera winds up getting a red card for a little bit too much on Lamine Yamal. So good riddance to him. I don't think it's going to be good riddance to Espanyol, but they have not guaranteed safety just yet. Espanyol, that's what they were fighting for. That's probably why they started so well on their home ground in this match. They had something to fight for as much as Barcelona did. But yeah, Cabrera winds up with the match in the balance. Still only down 1-0. He dooms his team to still be fighting on for their Liga lives throughout the remainder of this now last two matches. So a red card for him, as we often see in these derbies, a lot of red cards. Gabi got a little hot there in the second half. Could have picked one up. Not for any foul or tackle, but just for going crazy at the end. But fortunately, Barcelona were able to stave off anything. And then finally, the rivalry also continued in the postgame. Last year, remember, Barcelona were celebrating with the ring on the field, and Cornet were not too happy about it. This time, Hansi Flick had warned them not to do that. The players kind of tried to do it anyway. Espanyol, a little bit of pushing and shoving, whatever. And then the sprinklers came on to say goodbye to Barcelona, but don't you worry, there's going to be a parade tomorrow and all those things. So Barcelona will be celebrating the Liga trophy. I do hope to see a lot of youngsters, and I do hope to have something to talk about for the last two remaining 5 headlines for the men's version. But a reminder that I will have the final big up watch along as far as watch along of a match, because we are going to do some other fun stuff. But the last watch along I have on Big Up will be for the Barca Femení coming up in a few Saturdays' time on the 24th of May. So there is still trophies to be won, but for now, it's the 20th Liga trophy for Barcelona. I'm so excited. I'm so happy that you joined me this season. Please subscribe on YouTube. Help me out on Patreon. Subscribe on the podcast apps. All of that is a big help for me. So as always, until next time, Visca El Barça and Forza Barça.